All right, the first bit that we are going to piece together is the 8 pieces. So the 4 white and the 4 black, we're going to do those strips. And this one, it doesn't matter, which way it goes, they're all going to be the same. So we're going to go ahead and just start. The thread that is in the top and in my bobbin is both white. It really doesn't matter what color you do on this, on quilting much in general, because you're not going to see it anyway. I typically just use white, so in the off chance that something might peek through, it's not going to be like some really odd color. So yeah, basically we just take the pieces and we put them on top of each other. And then we're going to just pick a side to sew. And I've already got my stuff threaded in and put through, so we're ready to go there. I put my presser foot down. I will line it up with my little tape that I have here for my seam allowance, which is a 1/4 inch, and mine is a little bit different than I thought it was. So I had to actually go in and measure and make sure that it was a 1/4 inch, and it was. So let's go ahead and get going. I will be holding my thread here to the side so it won't go anywhere. Okay, I'm gonna lift that up, pull it out, and we're gonna cut. Alrighty, so we got our first little thing there, our black and white. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next. So we're going to do white on top of black. And grab my tail there. Always try to even them up the best I can. There we go. Whoop. Oh yeah, sometimes I have to grab, so I just use my my thing here. I'll just grab the thread if it gets stuck under there. Which, depending on how much bobbin thread I have under here, it can happen more often. Mine is getting pretty low, so sometimes it bounces around in there too. Which is not ideal, but... We're going to go ahead and switch back to another black. Grab our tail. We're going to bring the needle back up, making sure it's not getting stuck under my tape there. Whoop. There we go. Sometimes the fabric is a little bit slippery. I actually have, let's see if I can get it out. I have some of this Squirt Quick, and it does help moisten your fingertips, so that way it makes it easier to like grab the fabric. So you don't want to always be licking your fingers all the time. That gets kind of gross. All right, so we're gonna go back down, grab the tail. And then throughout it, I kind of try to make sure that it's lined up all the way. Okay, looks pretty good. Cut, cut. Okay. Now we're going to do another white on top of the black. And you always want to go back with your wheel for your needle, because if you go forward, it'll go down and get more of your bobbin fabric, and then it'll just get all tangled in there, and you don't want that. So I was really bad about doing that for a while. I'm trying to be better, but you know, sometimes I slip up. Alrighty, line that up, hold the tail. Sometimes this fabric shifts just a little bit, so I kind of make sure as I go that it stays lined up. Alright. Oh goodness, we ran out of bobbin thread. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to grab another bobbin. Let's see. Give me just a second. Okay, we are back. I got a new bobbin. I'm going to go ahead and just finish up the one that ran out of thread here. So I'm going to kind of start in the area that I was in. Kind of an easier way to tell like where exactly you need to start is to bring your needle close down to the fabric and just kind of see where it lines up, and just make sure that that's, you know, where you want to start. So let me bring it back just a tiny bit. If the thread overlaps just a little bit, it's not going to be a big deal. I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving like a gap or something. And then I'll just check it after and make 100% sure. So let's go and just finish this part out. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at it. Yep, looks good. Looks like it did leave off pretty much right where I left. So let's go ahead and cut off our extra. And actually, since we changed our bobbin, the thread looks, the stitches look a lot better, so that's a good thing. Alrighty, and then now we're going to go and do our black. Let's see, our needle gets stuck again. Let's take that out. Alright, there we go. My seam ripper. I couldn't think of the name of it earlier for some reason. My seam ripper is what I use to get that untangled. All right. So now we're going back in with our black. Make sure it's all lined up well. There was another one I went ahead and redid because it wasn't 100% lined up too well. So I just wanted to make sure that they are good. Okay. Go ahead. That just keeps getting stuck under there, and we've lost our bobbin threads, so we're gonna have to pull that back up. Alright. So I'm gonna hold this tail here, and then we're going to bring it forward. As we pull on that, that should bring forward a little bit of a thread. Okay, it pops up there. And then I use my seam ripper to grab that thread and pop it out of there. And then we will bring it over with the other. There we go. All right, let's get back on track. Now we're doing the white over the black. I would normally do this probably a little bit quicker, but since I'm talking and everything like that, just, you know. All right. Line it up didn't lose our thread that time. For the first time in a while, I feel like. Alrighty. And then we've got our last black strip here, which will go on the white. Okay, cool. So sometimes if I want to make sure it's lined up well, I will go ahead and put it under the foot and then just kind of pull on the top and just make sure that it's lined up before we start. We can kind of line it up as we go, but you know, I always just make sure kind of got a good head start there. Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see the other thread sort of peeking through on the bottom. Just a tiny bit. That's a good sign. I don't typically grab the fabric from the back because for me personally, I feel like when I do that, it'll go crooked. So I think I used to do that more often and I was just kind of like screwing myself up. So I decided to kind of lay off on that a little bit. It seems to be helping, just kind of let it guide itself through there. So it kind of work out in my favor, so. All right, so we've got our black and white strip here ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set that aside because now what we need to put together is our strips, our other little two strips. One thing that we need to keep in mind is the seam allowance on this. Originally when I had tried to do like a test square, it wasn't quite right. It was about half an inch off, which was pretty crazy. So we're going to make sure that this is going to work. So we got our black and white 3x5s here. We're going to go ahead and put those together first. And then we're going to sew that onto one of our colored squares, our purple and green. So let's just see how this goes. I'm hoping this works out and I don't have to tweak the measurement again. It's like, you know, the way I figured it, it should be good, but you know, it's just things happen. So, all right, considering my luck and, you know, not being good with math and everything. So. There it is. Okay, good. Cut on the other end here. Okay, so before I even sew it onto this square here, I'm going to line it up and just see what we've got. Okay, it looks like it is a tad bit wide. So I'm thinking here, like, what do I want to do exactly? Do I want to just take in the seam allowance on it? Or do I want to shorten those pieces? Give me just a second. Let me think about this. Okay, so I went ahead and attached the square here with the little, yeah, you really can't see that. Okay, there you go, with the little border on the end here. I'm not going to go ahead, even though it is still too wide, I'm going to go ahead and sew this on there, and then just for easy's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and, for now, just cut them down. So instead of 3x5, I think I am going to have to do 3 3/4 by 5, which gets a little tricky, but I mean, not that some of the others aren't really like that. You know, I already have a 1 3/4, so I'm just going to have to keep trying, you know, trial and error and everything like that. And again, like I said, I'm not good with math, so that's definitely, you know, tweaking a pattern. You just have to make sure you know like what you're kind of in for. So I'm hoping that it works out. But like I said, for now, I will go ahead and sew those just so we can move forward, honestly. Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that I am lining it up right, which honestly it doesn't matter because I can flip them around whichever way when I go to do the full piece, or full block, I guess I should say. Let me make sure that's going to flip over right. Okay, yep. We are good there. Let me see, yep, okay. So this is going to be interesting. Now we do have our little seams here, but what we can do is we can just take them and kind of do like a little split there. So whenever we go over that part, it'll be smooth. So trying to decide. Normally our pieces are, you know, the same size. So trying to decide how I want to go about this. Really, need to make sure that I'm doing the same amount on each side because I don't want that to be crooked. Yeah, okay. So that's about right. Let me pull that down just a tiny bit. That's the only bad thing about cutting it after the fact is you have to make sure that you got the same amount of each color on each side, or else that's not going to look good. So all right, let's go ahead and see how this goes. Make sure that I've actually got it as close as I can. Look at it. Got a little stuck under there. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I'm just doing something crazy. Again, I'm still like a semi-beginner, so things like that, you know, happen to me pretty frequently. Okay, so let me look at it. Do we have, okay, yeah, good. We have about, I don't know if you can really tell, we have about the same amount of excess on each side. Yeah, there we go. So I think that'll end up being okay. And then we'll just cut off the extra there. I'm wondering if I should just do that with my scissors. Honestly, I think I will because it won't be like too big of a deal in the end with our seam allowance. So let me just do that real quick. I'm kind of trying to do it as good as I can. Just kind of eyeballing it. I'm usually pretty decent at it. All right. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. But now we have a point to kind of start from. All right, let's see. All right. Let me just take a look at it here. All right, that'll be all right. So you can see I cut off the excess white that we have there, and then I cut off some excess black that we had. So yeah, not 100% perfect, but it's close enough to work with. So we are going to go ahead and move on. So we got that. I'm going to go ahead and attach, I have a green and black side here that I'm going to attach to the bottom of that. Be like a little mirror situation here. All right, and of course, since I already cut that, we will be good to go on that. And this will make it a little bit easier too. I don't have to like line it up just right to make sure it's the same amount of each color on each side, you know, so. Okay, let's bring that back up. Yeah, our thread's being crazy again. Let's fix that real quick. So we've got two bobbin here. So I'm trying to figure out which thread. Okay, there we go. One of them will just, if you pull on, so I had like 3 different threads going on there. If you just pull in the wheel, or not the wheel, excuse me, the little bobbin turns under there, then obviously that's the bobbin thread. If it's got a lot of resistance to it, it's stuck in there. So you need to pull a little bit harder to get it all the way out, and it'll just come right out. Once you really get a hold on it, it does take a bit, but alrighty. So let me make sure here that I already got pretty lined up. And then sometimes I always flip it over, just make sure it looks good before I commit. And then now, since these are the same size, I'm actually going to sew it on the side that has the little seam here. On the other one, I wanted to make sure I had good enough color on there, so I kind of, you know, didn't worry about that as much. But since we have that little flap there, I want to make sure we can get that down, not have to like go up under it and do it. We'll just do it from the top, so that will be easier. All right, yeah, the only thing is we got so many seams here to kind of work with. That's going to be a lot of ironing when we get to that point. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. Okay. Yeah, my problem is I'm putting a lot of the same kind of colors together. My other quilt, like a lot of them were just, well, they were like all different colors. So it was a little bit easier to tell. Once we get to that little seam there, I'm just going to lay those flaps down. And then we get going a little crooked on the end here. So I'm going to see if I can like line that up just a little bit before we get there. All right. Now let's look at that. Excess of that black there. Okay, let's look at our side. All right, not too bad. Of course, where I cut it, it's a little, cut it by hand, it's a little rough, but you know, hopefully next time. Let me see if I can back this up just a little bit. I don't know. I'm trying to make sure it's not gonna like fall off. Okay, let me get my light over here. Maybe. Just wasn't having it here before because it was like so blinding. Actually, let me see if I put it on the other side of this, if that's gonna work. Because ideally, you would be able to more see like what I'm actually doing. Let me look and see. Oh, gotta refocus it. Okay. There we go. Okay, let me see. Trying to play with the lighting here. And my lamp can only stretch so far, so that's a bit of a problem. But here we go. You can kind of see it a little bit better. So we're starting on this end. We got our little thin border strip there. We got our black and white, another little thin border strip, and then we've got our green square. So that's where we are at this point. All right, so that's that whole side done. So pretty much we need to do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, let me make sure what I've got here. Okay, yes. So let me go ahead and, yeah, we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna go ahead and put the black and white pieces together first, even though they're gonna be the wrong size. But we'll get them together nonetheless. All right. Okay. Make sure we're still lined up. Yep. hopefully this will be better. You can actually see kind of what I'm doing. It was so dark not having anything there. Okay, so you've got that. And then, let's see, I went ahead and made up my little green and black there. And then my little purple and black. So let's go ahead and attach on one side. Whoops, I just covered up the pattern there. Okay, and I know once I get the hang of this is going to go faster. I'm just trying to make sure everything is squared away here. I don't want to do anything wrong. Don't want to get something backwards. All right, so we got that. Oops, I'm going the wrong way here. Okay, got that up there. And we're wanting to go, let's see, flip that. So white is going to be on the right, and then black's going to be on the left. Yes, okay. So now I'm going to have to make sure, once again, that my colors have the same amount on either side. And if I can actually get the correct measurement down, then we'll be good to go. But until then, so, okay, let's get it about, pull it down just a tad there. Okay, let's see how that will look. Yeah, I just heard the seam clunk, clunk, clunk on the other side. All right, pull that through. All right, let's take a look at it. Not perfect, but it's pretty close. Got a little bit hangover there, a little hangover there. So let me go ahead and cut that. I mean, in this instance, I would rather have too much fabric than not enough, because, you know, you can't really very easily just add fabric to it. So this, not ideal, but it's better than the latter, which is, you know, what I had when I did my test block. So, and that's why I had already had made up the colored blocks with the little black strips, because that was part of my test block. But then once, of course, I realized that that wasn't going to work, I didn't continue putting together the test block. So, but at least with longer, like I said, I can just cut off. So this one's a little trickier for some reason, I don't know. And I would move the camera so you could see what I'm doing, but honestly, I have like this tiny little tripod and it's very difficult to move. Just know that I cut off the excess of the white and the black, so it's not hanging over anymore. That's really all I was doing. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing as we did the other one. We're going to grab our purple square with our black, and we're going to put it on the other side. All right, line that up. Get your tail over there. I'm still honestly trying to debate whether I like the painter's tape thing or not. I'm not really sure. The problem is it's like there's these little teeth here. I think that's just like to pull the fabric. And the seam allowance is like right on those teeth. So that makes it a little bit tricky to work with. Because the painter's tape will kind of keep popping up. So it's kind of hard to tell if it's like really doing its job or not. Obviously, if it was like on the outside, you know, kind of more away from the foot, I think it would be totally fine. But with this, I'm just not so sure about it. I'm a little leery about it, so. Alrighty, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and do one of those where I put the foot down, but then I kind of adjust before I actually start sewing. This one has a little bit of excess black sticking out the top, so I want to make sure that my white is actually going to be toward the top and my black's going to overlap a little bit, because I want to make sure that it's actually going to be connected well, because otherwise we'll have my black like definitely on there and my white will be like barely hanging on. So that is one trick that took me quite a while to get. So, all right. Okay, we gotta just stop for a second, make sure those little seams are down. Make sure we're still lined up, which, whoa. Go over a little bit though with our black, of course. All right, let me take a look at that. That one got a little crazy. So let's see. Well, and then it's like, you know, sometimes you think something looks crazy, but then you look at it and it looks totally fine. So. I am debating if that looks a little bit too crooked for me. I mean, obviously that little black area is hanging off a bit. I'm just trying to decide if it's noticeable enough to tweak it. Also, I'm getting kind of an optical illusion because I've got the seams that I can kind of see through the fabric back there. So let me kind of take it away from the light a little bit and take a look at it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it'll probably be all right. I don't think it'll be super noticeable. And we've got a lot of squares to go. This is literally like our first full complete square. So, you know, it's not going to be 100% perfect the first time. We'll just get a little bit of a learning curve here. There's kind of a lot of pieces to it, you know, so. All right. So what we do now, we've got our two sides. So let me get that. And then with my test pieces or whatever, I went ahead and did the sides here, my long borders, the 16 and a half pieces right here on either side. So since I've already put it on this one, I'm going to go ahead and just use this piece. So let me go ahead and take each of these pieces. So we're going to add this piece to this piece and, you know, do the same with the other side. Let's see here. Just let me make sure that I am putting this on right. Okay, so we're actually starting with white at the top. And then we are going to go green this way. Okay, so let's do that first. So we've got our thing here. We're gonna do green, and these blocks are so big. I'm not used to it. Here's the remainder on the other side here. These blocks are so big. I'm not used to dealing with such big blocks like from the get-go. But I was reading on the pattern that in that instance, because I already have so many seams, like I'm not used to already having so many seams at this point. So this is very interesting. With my other quilt, you know, for each block I had, well, gosh, let's see, 2 seams. And this, I mean, my goodness, I have so many. All right, so let's see how this goes. When I'm holding it up against the fabric here, it's looking a little bit short. So the only thing is we just kind of want to make sure we're stretching it just a little bit. I don't know if stretching is really the word, but we just want to make sure that it's going to be able to go from top to bottom, and not, well, we definitely don't want it to be too short. If it's a tiny bit too long, that's not too bad, but being shorter is a little harder to work with. So we are going to go ahead and get it lined up here. Luckily, I don't have to deal with any seams on the bottom, of course, because it's just a solid strip. So I'm going to be paying attention to my seams at the top and doing that thing where, you know, I fold the little flaps over and sew it down. So I'm going to go ahead. This is going to be, yes, very interesting. I'm saying that about everything, but really this is just so different than the other one I had to do. I was reading reviews on this pattern and it's like, oh, it was so easy, but I haven't gotten started. It's like, okay, well, how can you say it was easy if you haven't even started it? Like, it looks easy? I mean, I don't know. I'm not so sure it looks easy to me. I mean, I don't know. It could be harder. It could be like a bunch of crazy shapes and stuff. I mean, this is just squares and rectangles, so it could always be harder, I'd say so. All right, let's get going here. All right, I'm coming up on a seam, so I'm going to attempt. Oh, come on now. My goodness, can't get a hold of it. Okay, there we go. And then we'll have another one right after that, so that's going to be a little tricky. Okay. And I'm trying to remember to, like, keep pulling it, keeping it straight. There's just so many things to remember. Oh yeah, this will definitely be good. I had to stretch it just a tiny bit. I'm already right in line with it, just that little bit of stretching I did just now, so. All right, that's the only thing about, oh, I didn't cut that thread, wow. That's the only thing about something like this is normally you don't have to deal with so much at, you know, at the beginning. That kind of comes later, or at least with the other one, that was definitely the case. But I'm already having to go through a lot of stuff here. Okay, put that seam down. Then we got it again, another one right after that. Okay, come on. Let's see. Oop. Get that lined up a little bit better. So hard to see. There we go. Okay, yep, it's down there. It's good to go. We're drifting just a little bit. All right, let's look at it. Oof, that was a little nerve-wracking. Okay, yeah, we're sticking out a little bit at the bottom, but it's not too bad. Oh boy. Alrighty, so we got all that. So that's a lot. Yeah, this really is a huge block. My goodness. Oh. Wow, oh wow. Okay, so now I just want to make sure, obviously we're just going to flip-flop our colors here. So if we've got green, that's one good thing. We just know if we got green on the top, we're going to have purple on the top of the other. So let's go ahead and get this flipped. And we're going to do the exact same thing. And then we're going to pay attention to our seams that we're going to have to lay down. I mean, you could iron all this out beforehand, but honestly, I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to just have more seams after after we get it sewn anyway. And it's easier just to kind of, as you go, just flip them down. It's not really a big deal. They're so tiny anyway. Now if they are like larger, then maybe I would care about it more. But also they're on the outside, or excuse me, the ones on the inside won't really matter as much. The ones on the outside will though. And that's something that I guess I'm going to have to do at the end. Press everything as it says, which I've never done that before. So that'll be a new thing for me. And I hope I do it right. Alrighty. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with the green at the top this time. Ooh, and it's already shimmying because this is a hefty little block here. Okay, let's just get that over. Oop, come on now. Yeah, this is... Alright, let me do that where I go ahead and put it under the foot. See what kind of lining up we can do. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I think we're good to a good start here. Alrighty. Oop, got our first seam, which that actually looks quite big. Well, we'll see how it works out. I'm like, how did they get it so far on that one? These other seams are pretty small. And we'll see. Oh boy. Okay, this part's a little tricky. Because we got seam and then we got a seam right after it. I'm gonna see if I can grab underneath here and kind of pull it. But I know once I get these blocks done, I'll feel accomplished. It's just like, yeah, it's just kind of a lot. You don't realize just how much until you really get into it. Okay. Oh, I need to move that over, but I don't want to screw this up down here. Ooh, yeah, we got lots on that to go. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to... There's a lot of excess black over here, so I'm just going to keep sewing straight and just kind of go right over that. Because once we get back down here, we'll be back on track. I just cut that crazy, so... That foot just for a second, kind of lay down that seam. Okay. Make sure we're good. Okay, going to... Oh, these seams are so tiny. Ugh. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. Okay. Alright, we are way off down here, so let me, because this is the part where we should be lining back up pretty well. Yeah, that. That's going to be the tricky part, is making sure I keep my seam allowance the same all the way through. That's where it can look kind of crazy if it's not. So that's definitely something I'm going to have to work on. I can already see it being a little difficult to do that, because I've got quite a bit of purple block hanging out down here. Yeah, so... Oh boy. Alrighty. Okay, yeah, well, it's done. I'm gonna have to take a look at it, see maybe what things I can kind of fix up. I'm just gonna have to get some practice in, because yeah, it's definitely tricky. So yeah, we're just gonna have to see. Let me see if I can lay this down and kind of get a look at it. It's a little crooked, I'm not gonna lie, from side to side. So I'm just gonna have to kind of see what I need to do and go from there. This is our block that we have. Yeah, so we definitely got some issues. The thing I will maybe do, I'm still trying to decide if I want to do it this way, if I want to try to iron it and see, you know, that way, like what we can do, or I might need to redo some parts with seam allowances. For it being my first block, you know, I'm just gonna have to be really careful. It's just kind of what I'm gathering here. But anyway, that's the first block. We're gonna have to figure some things out here, but that's all right. Okay, so just a little update here. Of course, you've seen I've gone through some trials here with these pieces right here. So I did write to the side, like kind of my revised bits here. So obviously 2.5 was too narrow, and then 3 was too wide. So I'm thinking a 2.75 inches by 5 on those. I haven't tried that yet because I also went ahead and ordered from Amazon a 1/4 inch presser foot. Because I think that's another thing that I was really having issues with, is just trying to maintain. Because the last quilt that I did was just different. I was able to go along the presser foot, and it was just much easier for me. So not being able to do that has been really frustrating to not be able to maintain that. So I have bought that, and we are going to try that out. And I'm hoping that, you know, those things together will help out a lot in the end. Okay, so I thought I would just give a little update of like just kind of how I'm feeling about the whole thing. I figured I would give like periodic updates about, you know, how everything's going, how I'm feeling about how it's going, and everything to that effect. So the first issue, of course, that I just mentioned was the 1/4 inch seam allowance, which I'm struggling with, and then just, I don't know, the cutting as well. I was getting kind of those snags, and what I might actually do is switch to my old blade and see if there's just something wrong with the blade, or it might be the fabric, because when I cut more of the colored fabric, the purple and the green, I was having that same issue where it felt like there was something under it. And so I'm still trying to figure out like what the problem is with that, because that's going to be like really annoying. I did not have that issue at all, like any other time that I cut fabric, and I'm thinking it just so happens that when I change the blade out, it's happening. So maybe I installed it wrong. Pretty sure it's the right blade, but I'm gonna try the other blade when I cut more fabric and just see if it fixes that. I should get that new presser foot tomorrow. I work the weekend, so unfortunately I won't be able to work on it until at least Monday. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna want to work on it until Monday anyway, I'll put it that way. But again, you know, I just have to keep thinking I have plenty of time to get this done. So once I can like successfully get a whole block done and I feel like it looks good, I think it'll be like a lot more smooth sailing. I feel more comfortable like cutting more fabric out and just going ahead and getting that done, and then just getting all together. But for right now, I'm in the processing stage where I'm just still trying to figure out like what I'm doing. And it is, you know, when I put everything together, like it's a little bit more complicated than I was expecting. Like the pieces individually, like you put a couple pieces together, you're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. But then obviously like the more pieces that you have to put together and they don't line up quite right, especially with the seam allowance issue, it's like really making me nervous, and I just want to nip this issue in the bud, you know, and see if that helps. I'm really hoping it does, because I get discouraged very easily, and, you know, me being a perfectionist. Also, this is hard for me, you know, just admitting that I'm struggling with something, even though I am still like kind of a beginner. You know, it's human, but just admitting that I'm struggling with something and I'm not just going to get it right the first time. I know in the end it'll turn out okay and it's going to be good, but right now it's just a little rough. So, but I have hope. I haven't completely given up yet. I mean, I just started, so I would hope not. But anyway, that's about it. On to the next, I guess.